Hello, beautiful people! Hard as a rock peeping out through the cracks, he's a real deal boss who's eager to beat you. He's hiding some bombs behind his back and a few little sons who are excited to meet you. Don't worry, he doesn't want child support. He just wants to rock and roll. There's no need to run. Taking on Vorago is no joke. It's a tough sport. You can come here alone, but it won't be as fun. I know he's intimidating. Look at his size. Eyes. They're full of angst covered by emo rock hair. He is a big booty boss from his head to his thighs, but he is no match for you. You'll defeat him, I swear. So sit back, relax, and let's enter his hole together. If you dare. Vorago is a rough around the edges rock boy who was a bit of a troublemaker, so they boinked him with the Mall of Omens and made him go night-night. To get here the first time, you'll head over to the Falador Lodestone and run north to the borehole. You know what we say, if there's a hole, there's a goal. If you're a little confused, just go back to the introduction of this video to see how to get over to him. Vorago spends his days sleeping and waiting for legends like yourself to challenge him to a fight so he can keep himself in good shape. In order to be able to accept the challenge invitation and join your friends deeper in the hole, you'll have to talk to Vorago first. Once you do that, whenever someone starts an encounter, you'll get a pop-up asking if you want in on this group action. Say yes for a good time. Now, you can have up to 50 people in the fight together at the same time, but Vorago mouses are scary. You'll see why later. Just remember that more isn't necessarily better. So Vorago doesn't fight fair. Before you even get to hit him, he's going to hurt you. After accepting the fight, he charges up an attack that's going to leave you almost dead face down in the dirt. You can see the bar above his head here. Use a power burst of vitality right about now, just before the bar fully charges, to start the fight with some life points. So, we're not going to cover everything in one guide. I honestly don't think I have it in me to make a guide that long. This is the first in a special Vorago for Dummies series because this boss is serious business and there's a lot to take in. In this guide, we're going to go over the different mechanics that you'll face in the boss encounter and learn how to deal with them. I know you're ready to rumble, so let's get to it. Vorago has melee basic attacks that hit anyone within 2 tiles of him, so don't stand too close. If you're a DPS princess, you'll want to position yourself between the base tank and the bomb tank. You do need to have a base tank standing in melee distance because if Vorago cannot reach his target, he's going to start hitting everyone in the room with hard typeless damage. We don't like it hard. That's the basic stuff. Let's get into some more specific stuff and I'm gonna show you examples. Throughout the fight, Vorago launches bombs usually at the farthest player away from him. The person whose job it is to eat these bombs is the bomb tank. There are 2 types of bombs that are going to hit you regularly. The blue bombs deal magic damage and are an AoE hit with a 3-tile reach. Their damage can be reduced with defensives, which makes them really great for healing with a sneaky res. Then there's the red bombs. These suck and you can't do much about it. Just eat through them. That's what Reavers are for. I'm going to go into detail about bomb tanking in other videos of this series, so be sure to check out the videos on specific roles of Vorago. In summary, the base tank stands in melee distance, the bomb tank stands far away, and the DPS princesses stand in between them to avoid unnecessary damage. Another mechanic to look out for is the bleed. Vorago will boink the head of the base tank and leave them with a nasty bleed. If the bleed isn't cleared, Vorago will boink the base tank again and they'll take 6k damage. There are 5 bleeds in total, or 5 boinks if you will. Boinking is really bad. So how do we clear these bleeds? You can use freedom to clear a bleed, and you can move away from the boss. 6 tiles to completely clear it. The normal strategy is to have one player take 2 bleeds and another take 3 using freedom and movement abilities to clear the bleeds and the provoke ability to take aggro. Let's count these together. First boink, freedom. Second boink, going to escape, and Vorago is going to get voked by another player. Here's the third boink, it's going to get freedomed. Fourth boink, escape, surge back. 5th boink, escape, and Vorago is going to get voked again. It's time to invest in double escape, boys and girls. We're in the big leagues now. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, dodge. Do what you must to clear the bleed. It's worth mentioning that there's a blue bomb launch after the second bleed, so the farthest person away should be aware of this. It is a really great time to resonance some health back. And finally, you'll see bleeds on phases 2, 3, and 4. Let's move on. As if bombs and bleeds weren't enough, Vorago also uses the reflectability, and all damage done to him is passed to someone in the group. If you miss the wildy PKing days, you might enjoy Vorago. A message will appear saying that Vorago is reflecting damage. If you're still laying the DPS on thick, you need to stop attacking immediately or rip to a homie, or yourself. In a perfect world, you'll have stopped attacking before you see this message. You know reflect is going to happen either by counting auto attacks or by the animation indicating the attack. Vorago raises his right arm and opens his hand, but it's hard to see when you're in the moment, so it's time to learn how to count. I know you can do it. When reflect happens during each rotation will be covered in the specific rotation guides. This lasts for 9.6 seconds, which is more than enough time to do serious damage. I mean, you guys know a lot can happen in 9 seconds. It's also a really good idea to have the cease ability on your action bar to cancel anything you might unleash at a bad time. Okay, that's enough about reflect. Let's keep going. At the end of each phase, except for the last one, Vorago's going to jump around the room 3 times. You'll see a shadow on the ground indicating where he's going to jump next. Because he's so thick, after he jumps, he breaks the floor and you go crashing down into the next phase. And don't worry, you're not going to take any fall damage. If you stand even near the shadow, you're going to get hit, so it's better to just move out of the way, even though it's not going to kill you. Don't sweat it too much. I mean, you know, what doesn't kill you just makes you stronger. No, that doesn't really apply here, but that's what I'm going with. So, there are 5 phases that we need to talk about. That is a lot of talking. Good thing I like to talk. First, we're going to go over phases 1, 2, 4, and 5, and then we're going to go over the different rotations that you can see in phase 3 because that is a whole thing in itself. Let's go ahead and start with phase 1. I think that makes sense. After you drop down, make sure you get your HP back up. Then the base tank is going to take the boss to the north side of the arena, and the person getting the maul piece is going to go to the agility course on the west side. You can see him doing parkour on the rocks in the background. While he's doing parkour, just keep DPSing the boss down. Once the mauler gets into position on the ledge, they're going to voke the boss. I'll go over exactly where to stand to make everything run smoothly in the roles guide of this series. The base tank then goes behind Vorago and is going to voke him back. The mauler needs to jump down, but they can only do this if Vorago is facing the other way. The mauler is going to get the first piece of the Maul of Omens when they jump down. Then you just do big booty damage and you're off to see the wizard in phase 2. What is the Maul of Omens? Well, that's a really great question. I'm going to talk about that in phase 5. Okay, here's an example phase 2. The base tank is going to use provoke at the start, take the first bleed, and then use freedom to clear it. That's me, by the way. The second bleed is wiped by escape, then the boss is voked. After escaping, I stay back by myself and resonance the blue bomb for some delicious HP. The other person who voked the boss is clearing the 3rd and 4th bleeds with freedom and escape. After the 5th bleed, the base tank immediately vokes the boss and the bomb tank is free to move away and clear the bleed. Once the bleeds are done, we have 3 auto attacks and then reflect. During this reflect, a red ball is going to appear. You need to click this ball. Don't worry too much about what it does, just know that you need to click it. Basically, Vorago doesn't like his balls being touched, it messes with his head. When the reflect is over, we do it all again. Hit the boss, deal with the bleeds, and then click the red ball that spawns. This phase is time locked, so you'll notice his HP resets to 75,000 every time you get it down to 12.5. The 200 IQ strategy is to get the HP as low as you can without resetting it before the second reflect. If you're using necromancy, be careful because your conjures can easily reset the HP. That said, their damage is not reflected, so don't worry about them giving you and your friends a KO punch. Okay, we've made it to the second reflect. I managed to stall successfully. Now we're going to click the red ball and move on to the next part of phase 2. Vorago falls to his knees and our view changes. For the better, some might say. We start receiving a bleed every 2 ticks and a bar appears on top of the screen and we have to fill it by spam clicking Vorago. After filling the bar, you need to deal big booty damage to Vorago to knock a piece of the Maul of Omens off of him. Just use a threshold or 2 and you should be good to go. After the piece drops, take his HP down to 0 and move on to phase 3. Also, sorry you couldn't see the spam click bar. I was zoomed in so you can see the mechanics better. It's there, trust me, just spam click and don't worry about the bar. But for reference, this is what it looks like. Okay, let's move on to phase 4. In this phase, we drop down and need to run behind a waterfall that spawns in one of the corners of the room. Vorago's charging up a big attack, and that's how we avoid it. Make sure you are all the way behind the water. After the attack, the base tank should surge over to Vorago and start walking him to one side of the room. What I do to walk him is just right-click under him and walk over and over again. Everyone else should run to the opposite side of the room and wait for a little bit. Next, you're going to get the bleeds and then reflect. You might be wondering why we're taking Vorago on a little walk. What we're doing is called a clone skip. After the waterfall, a clone of someone in the group will spawn and that person needs to kill their clone. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Or you can walk the boss and it doesn't happen. It just lets everyone focus on what they're doing without adding in a little extra mechanic, but it's really not that bad, so if you're not getting the walking down, don't worry about it and just deal with the clones. After reflect, we're going to get the waterfall again and it's time to rinse and repeat. Go chasing waterfalls, walk the boss, deal with the bleeds, reflect, and then one more waterfall. There are 3 waterfalls, and after the 3rd one, you can immediately kill Vorago. Well, not kill, but get his HP down to 0 and phase him. This phase is time locked. If you get his life points to 12.5 thousand before the 3rd waterfall, it's going to reset to 75k. The big booty legend gamer strat is to leave the HP as close to 12.5 as you can before the 3rd waterfall so that you can just tickle him to phase. Okay, let's move on to phase 5. So earlier I mentioned the Maul of Omens. The maul is broken in 3 pieces. You get a piece after phase 1, 2, and 4. You're going to need this weapon to end the fight in phase 5. Once all 3 pieces are dropped, they need to be picked up and combined to make the maul. If you don't combine them, the person holding the pieces takes 100 damage every 2 ticks. In phase 5, your goal is to push Vorago to the edge of the arena using big booty damage and then maul him in melee distance to finish the fight. You'll know it's time to maul because you'll see a message in chat that says something along the lines of like only the Maul of Omens can finish him. But basically once he's all the way to the edge of the arena, you can use it. To use it, you just click on it in your inventory. During this phase, you'll have to deal with a lot: bombs, bleeds, reflect, and the weekly rotation. To clear the bleeds in phase 5, you can freedom and run back on the platform if you get more. There's 3 bleeds in this phase and you don't voke the boss. Just put some distance between you. It makes the heart grow fonder, or that's what they say. For all of the damage that you receive, Vorago pushes back, so try not to mess up too much. If Vorago pushes you all the way back, you fall off and swim down river to Death's office. If you're not bomb tanking, you can stand all the way to the south wall and soul split. You only want to stand in melee distance in this phase when you use the Maul of Omens. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. You just need to do big booty damage and try not to get pushed back by tanking too many of the mechanic. You can see here my friend is just surged into melee distance because he's going to use the Maul of Omens, and that's it. You get a nice little cutscene, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. Okay, so that's not quite it. Now we need to talk about the different weekly rotations that we're going to see when we get to phase 3 of the fight. There are 6 of them to go over, so go grab a snack and get ready for this info dump. Nobody puts baby in a corner, but Vorago is putting us in a box. First up, we've got Team Split. This is going to be the easiest Vorago rotation and the best week to practice the boss if you are learning. So how does it work? Well, Vorago gets overwhelmed with excitement from the thrill of the fight and starts charging up to explode and release all of those feelings on you and your team. When this happens, everyone on the team is going to turn either red or blue. A blue and a red box are also going to spawn on the ground at the same time. These are magical safety boxes. Look at what color you are and then run into the box that's the same color as you. If you're in the box, you're safe. If you're outside of the box, you're gonna get hit 8,000 fat ones, so just hang tight until Vorago releases. You cannot damage him while he's doing his business, so just go to your box and wait it out. He doesn't last more than 8 seconds anyway, so it won't take too long. If you don't see your box on the ground, don't worry, a lot of guys have a hard time finding them. It's probably underneath Vorago. Very, very sneaky, sir. And yeah, that's Team Split. Let's move on. Another rotation that even the babiest of legends can deal with is ceiling collapse. As you can imagine, this involves rocks falling from the ceiling that you'll want to avoid. Vorago will aim up at the sky and choose a spot on the floor to bring the roof down on. How do you know which spot? A shadow appears on the ground. If you're standing near the rock when it lands, you'll lose up to 8,000 of your precious life points. And it's got a pretty long reach, so you'll want to get far away from it. Rocks on the ground stay there for the next phase unless they're in the center of the room. To get rid of the rocks, you right-click and clear the debris, but make sure you throw back a sailfish or two beforehand if you're low on the life juice, because clearing a rock will deal 4,000 damage to the person clearing it. The most important rocks to clear are the ones in the corners because they could block access to the waterfall in the next phase, and that's really spooky. Don't rock block your friends. And one more thing. You can get stuck in a rock and have to clear it to get out. Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place. Okay, on to the next one. Let's talk about Vorago's large suns. They're called Scops, Scop 1 and Scop 2 if you will. You're going to see 3 here, but that's because this was filmed in hard mode. In normal mode, there's only 2. These are very bad behaved sons who don't have respect for anyone. They bite, hit, and kick and just don't listen. So how do we deal with them? Just get their HP down to 0. Normally the base tank grabs the Scops and tanks them, pray melee, and become the human meat shield you were always destined to be. It's a good idea to use devotion at the start because these things hit hard. But that's it, get them to 0 and you're on to the next phase. The last rotation that is pretty easy to deal with is Green Bomb. You're smart, so you can probably guess that during this rotation, Vorago throws out a Green Bomb. When the bomb lands on the ground, it creates a circle of doom that deals damage to you if you stand inside of it and drains adrenaline and run energy. Don't stand in that circle. After it hits the ground, it bounces like flubber and heads towards one person. That person is going to take 10,000 damage and should use protection. Always use protection. The ball can bounce between players, dealing damage if they're standing near each other, but this is a relatable guide and we're not worried about all these scenarios. Just don't stand next to each other and let one person take the 10k damage. So I mentioned protection. You can use a power burst of vitality to survive the first green bomb. If that same player receives the next bomb as well, then they're going to need some help. The damage from a green bomb can be negated by barricade, but only if another person does it. You cannot barricade yourself. So someone will have to intercept and barricade for you. Teamwork makes the dream work. Or you could simply just eat to full health, face tank the hit like the damage-eating legend you are, and continue on. Just decide what you guys are going to do with the green bombs beforehand and everything should be a-okay. Okay, moving on, we have what I like to call the clock rotation, officially known as the end. This is a very spicy rotation. Vorago is going to raise his arms and face the side of the room and then slam his arms down. Run into his arms before he slams them, nestle into his warm embrace, or face suffocation. We have a very toxic relationship with Vorago. Basically, if you're not between the arms, you get hit with a bleed that gets worse over time. It's bad vibes. Once you're between his arms, Vorago will rotate to the left every few seconds, and you should move with him and stay between his big, strong arms. If you were caught outside of the arms at any point, you can get back between the arms if you go to where he'll face next. If you don't move with the arm, but you're between them and you stay in the same spot, Vorago's right arm will smack you and deal 2,500 damage. His left arm doesn't deal any damage to you, it's weak. I wonder why that would be. Anyways, so we're moving around staying between the arms. That's easy enough. The first time you run under the arms, there's nothing else to worry about. The second time you move, there's going to be either red or blue bombs, and the third time as well. The fourth move is going to have purple bombs. We do not like purple bombs. Much like your ex, they are beautiful to look at, but you know they will hurt you. You can't fix them, you need to protect yourself. Yes, I'm still talking about the bombs. So these bombs can be clicked. Blue and red bombs will hurt the person who clicks them. Purple bombs are going to hurt everyone. Ignore the red and blue bombs. Purple bombs turn you into a Vitalis and start an explosion countdown. Barricade will protect you completely. In a perfect world, you unleash dump truck booty DPS and don't even have to worry about the explosions. Alright, let's talk about the final and spiciest rotation that Vorago has. Vorago has some little nieces and nephews that are as unruly as his children, but there's more of them. We call these annoying cousins Vitalis. Vorago is going to send out a white orb that will spawn up to 5 annoying cousins. The orb travels on the ground and then explodes, releasing them. If you stand in the explosion, you take 2,000 damage. Now, you might think I'm about to tell you not to do that. I am not. Each player in the instance hit by the explosion means 1 less cousin spawns. You can, of course, ignore the orb and just keep hitting, but let me explain to you what the cousins do. They have 20,000 life points and hit very hard with melee. They are also barriers. You cannot walk through them or attack over them. When they spawn, they have a tendency to get in your way and prevent you from attacking their Uncle Vorago. With that information in mind, you have two options to deal with them. Option 1, prevent them from spawning by standing in the orb explosion. Option 2, ignore the orb, stand in melee distance of the boss so the cousins cannot get between you and just do big booty damage. Baby Legends should opt for the first option and Absolute Legends can do option 2. Be warned, it is a little risky. It is worth mentioning that any cousins left alive when the phase is over just disappear. They go home and you move on with the fight. And as if that weren't enough, there's also one more thing that makes this rotation particularly horrible. You have to deal with the bleeds while the cousins are all up in your business. Freedom, Vogue, it's going to be hard to get away because you might be blocked by cousins. Just deal with the bleed like you normally would and hit the boss as hard as you can to get out of this mess. And that's it for now. Make sure to check out the other parts of this series for more information about things like what to bring and how to do rolls. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the guide. Like, subscribe, share, and most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next time, friends!